This is 2021. This is the Betfred Super League. Be ready.
Got me here. It took a big chunk out of me. Bleeding. It's bleeding. Oh no, it's bleeding. The thing just ripped me ear off. What do you think?
Hello again, everyone, and welcome along to a landmark 40th edition of Eddie and Stevo, the podcast, sponsored by, as always, our good friends at Betfred. Now, I realise that I say this just about every week, but what a packed show we've got for you over the next half hour. There's a grand final to preview, another one to review, the Man of Steel Awards night to discuss, the new coaching setup at Wigan to reveal, and plenty more besides. Stevo, hope you've got enough breath for all of this.
Listen, is it really 40?
It's 40, yeah. Life begins at 40, so well done.
Well, I'm looking at myself in the mirror now and I'm thinking, it's aged me.
I bet it has.
But I must say, what a tremendous weekend this has been for rugby league.
Fantastic, hasn't it? Fantastic. Let's first of all look at the new coaching setup at Wigan. Sean Wayne returns, as expected, as the director of rugby. Matty Peat gets the title of head coach. And the Warrington legend, Lee Briers, moves in. This is quite a shake-up at the DW Stadium.
It certainly is. And I think that the appointment of Briers is a masterstroke. He was absolutely sensational playing in the half-back position. And if you wanted anybody to bring a youngster through, he's the man. He's learned from assistant coach. He's taken it all on board. And I think he's going to turn out to be a cracker of a coach. And of course, Sean Wayne, I think everybody realized that it was going to be Sean that would be in control. They panicked a little bit, but he will turn them around yet again. Okay. They got to the playoffs and they got to a situation where they did okay. But okay is not good enough for Wigan, is it?
No, it isn't. And I mean, Sean's appointment is the biggest open secret in rugby league. It's now confirmed. I understand, Stevo, that he stays on as the England head coach. But I'm wondering how this will work, because I didn't think all the Super League clubs were too keen on this sort of arrangement, because the head coach of the national side can be privy to information about players that other club coaches don't obviously get.
It is a little bit awkward, but I think that Wigan have found it difficult to find someone, even in Australia, that could bring them back to the that we've seen over the many, many years. I know that they were interviewing quite a few people up down under, and I don't think that they could find someone who has the experience as Sean Wayne. And as I say, throw Lee Briers into the pot, and you face it. Peter's been there, 5 or 6 years, to my knowledge?
He's been there over a decade. He really has. He was academy reserves and now the big job. You know?
And that's the most important thing, Eddie. He knows the academy system. He knows the youngsters that they've already got there. He knows how to coach them. And the combination of those three, I'm sure, will bring Wigan back to the top, where they belong, according to the Wigan fans.
Indeed so. Well, Sean is a believer in youth, and it could well be the way forward for Wigan, couldn't it? Building the future of the club, moving forward for the next 8-10 years on locally produced players.
I think we've only got to go back and have a look at the Leeds Rhinos. They went through a period where they were bringing a little bit more than overseas players into it. You need that experience. I understand that. they've brought through some tremendous talent. And who knows, we might get somebody back into the England status. They have always made sure that they get the best juniors from everywhere in England, not just in Yorkshire, but everywhere in England.
Well, I'm delighted, like you, that Lee Briers stays in the game. I was frightened to death that he was going to go to the dark side of rugby union, but he stays in rugby league and with a great club like Wigan. And again, a former under-19 and reserve team coach at Warrington prior to becoming assistant at Super League level. I really do think it's a clear and transparent pathway for Wigan now, don't you? Rely on the youth, push them forward. A couple of star names come in from elsewhere, and that's the way forward for Wigan.
As I say, they are going to climb back to the top.
Lee Briers was also linked with the head coaching job at the Lee Centurions, but he's elected, or maybe didn't quite work out there at Lee. He is elected to stay in Super League, which is great news.
Well, I think he's made the right decision. No offence to Lee, but it would have been a very, very difficult situation. They're going to find it very difficult indeed, because it's odds on. We all know they're going to be relegated. And talking of relegation, who's going to take their place?
Well, that is the big question. That's to come on Sunday. Just before we leave Wigan, Zach Hardacre, he's staying at Wigan for at least one more year. That's the length of his current contract. But he and his family have moved back across the Pennines to West Yorkshire again. And so will be commuting now. Not ideal. And apparently an attempted move to a club in Yorkshire has fallen through. So Zach Hardacre at Wigan for one more year. But he wants to play fullback, Stevo. I wonder what they're going to do about the Bevan French situation when he comes back. There's the first conundrum for the new coaching regime.
Well, I think that's one of the reasons why they'll be probably even allow him to go somewhere else rather than do the second year of his contract. That's not out of the water yet. I mean, they can say, look, if we've got an offer from somewhere, it's gone back to Yorkshire, and reading between the lines, evidently it's fallen through. Now, Hull have been rumoured to be that particular club. We can't confirm that. We're just, pie in the sky as far as that's concerned. But when you move across with your family back to Yorkshire, it tends to give you the impression that he wants to play for a Yorkshire club.
It does. Well, of course, Zach was once upon a time a Man of Steel. The 2021 Man of Steel awards have now been announced. Sam Tompkins gets the Man of Steel award for a second time. He got it last in 2012 while he was at Wigan and coincidentally as a fullback. But Tompkins has been the catalyst for the Catalan Dragons this year, hasn't he?
He certainly has. Though I must say, the inexperienced Morg has certainly impressed me. Okay, is a little bit, shall we say, suspect under the high kick. And I'm sure that Catalan, irrespective of how fit Sam Tompkins is, I think it was one of the TV interviews on Sky where he said, I'll get out there with one leg because he wants to play in the grand final. That's without a doubt. And I think that everybody in rugby league knew that Sean Wayne was going to go back to Wigan. And I think most people in rugby league thought that Sam Tompkins would become Man of Steel. And he has.
He has indeed. And what's more, his coach, Steve McNamara, also of the Catalan Dragons, of course, he gets the Coach of the Year accolade. And well done to Steve, because he's had a fantastic year down there in the south of France.
Certainly has, and it's taken him a while to get involved in that sort of situation. The one thing I liked about it when he first went down there, he said, I am going to learn to speak French. And I thought that was a very smart move indeed, so that there's no sort of information that he can pass on to the French players of them saying, well, you have to listen to me. And I think he's settled into that position. And remember, they won at Wembley. Absolutely sensational. And now they're in the grand final.
Listen, the other big award at the Man of Steel night went to Jack Welsby of St Helens. He's the Young Player of the Year. I'm told, by the way, Arthur Morg was second. But grand final week, here we are, and it's 2-1 to the Catalan Dragons already. By the way, interesting fact about Jack Welsby, he's Wigan born. Did you know that? He comes from Wigan.
Well, it won't be the first time that St Helens has poached someone from Wigan, is it? They've been doing it over the years. And look, he's a talent, this kid. I mean, I know he came onto the highlights in last year's grand final, and he's developed. And boy, has he developed under the new coach.
Very much so. I mean, his grand final winning try last year was special. I wonder if something similar is on the cards this weekend. We shall see. Let's look back now to the two convincing wins in the semi-finals last weekend for Catalan and the Saints. To the Dragons, first of all, I mean, what a night it was in Perpignan on Thursday. You know, a red carpet walk into the stadium, a full house based on home support only. Other Super League clubs, please take note. It was a fantastic night, crowned off by a fantastic performance. And it was a great night and a great game and all the fun of the fair. I mean, it reminded me, Steve, of Bradford in the early days of Super League. You know, they really put on a show, didn't they, around the match itself?
Did they ever? You tell me the last time, Eddie, that we have seen a Super League game where we've had a full house. Maybe the odd ones at Leeds, Wigan and St Helens, but a full house. You couldn't get in, couldn't get any more in there.
For poor old Hull Kingston Rovers, a bridge too far, Steve-O. 80 minutes away, though, from a grand final. Quite an achievement after last year's wooden spoon.
Tremendous. And you've got to say, hats off to their coach. I mean, Smith, amazing. 80 minutes away from a grand final. That is amazing. The turnaround is sensational. And that's only come about by the selecting certain players to play the style that Smith wants. Listen, when they beat Warrington, I know I tipped them jokingly last week about, yes, they'll come and turn them over. I didn't think that they would be capable of it because as far as I was concerned, when they beat Warrington, that was their grand final. And I think they knew it. I think some of the players knew it. And perhaps in the back of his mind, Tony Smith knew it well.
Maybe so. I mean, we've talked about a magnificent performance on and off the field in Perpignan. It was a sparkling performance by St Helens on Friday. Leeds beaten 36-8. The result was never in doubt, really. Starring roles, Regan Grace, Mark Pearsable, Nagama, James Roby. They were brilliant, St Helens, weren't they? Absolutely brilliant. They've got to go to Old Trafford as the shortest priced favourites ever to win a grand final, haven't they?
And I think Betfred will probably be quaking in their boots because I think a lot of people, right halfway through the season perhaps, they'd say, boy, this St Helens side, solid defence, attack. They've got so many key players. And how on earth that hooker, Roby, keeps performing time and time again. And I'm pleased that he's going to do another year. He's got another season.
Yeah, he's going to do it again.
And I'm also glad that he's made it quite clear he doesn't want to play at international level anymore. But what a great player. Unbelievable.
Yeah, he's been a wonderful servant to the game internationally and at club level. But, Steve-O, can Catalan stop them? You know, remember Wembley, 2018. Catalan Dragons rocked Warrington in the cup final on their heels. 31-30. The magic weekend not long ago. Golden Point won it for them. Can they do it again?
Well, you never know, Eddie. It's very difficult to say. As I said, I perhaps thought that Hull Kingston Rovers maybe could have got a bit of an upset, but that's how it goes. But St Helens have got to be so far in front. A lot will depend, Eddie, on whether Sam Tompkins is fully fit or even 90% fit. I know he says he'll get on with one leg, but how many times have we seen it where coaches have taken a risk with a player with a deep injury and it has really dragged the team down, and normally you finish up losing.
Well, that is true, but I think the new Man of Steel might be worth taking that sort of a chance on.
You're right. Great pack, enthusiastic, solid. Walmsley has been outstanding. And I mean that so much. He is such a workhorse. And yet he still has the ability he's got a lot of speed, and also he has this wonderful attribute of being able to offload the ball.
Well, they're a great side. Grand final and Old Trafford. The venue and the event synonymous. It's going to be fantastic. We will be there. But here's a question for you. How many are going to join us at Old Trafford? The ticket sales, I am told, are well down on previous years for a myriad of reasons. This game, Stevo, the grand final, it should be sold out weeks ago. Never mind waiting for who's got there. The grand final, as an event, should be sold out at the beginning of June or July.
Correct. Simple as that. And in the olden days, as soon as the season started, you always bought a ticket for Wembley. It was a tradition. It didn't matter who was going to get there. We're going down to London. We're going to have a good time. We're going to go in the pubs. We're going to enjoy ourselves. It was an event.
Look, Catalan Dragons have hired 4 jet planes to bring about 1,000 supporters with them. And there might be a couple of hundred more that'll come on other forms of transport. I mean, look, we've got the pandemic. We've got a fuel crisis that hopefully is coming to an end this weekend. It's difficult. I realize that. It really is difficult. But since 2015, the attendances at Old Trafford and Hull last year, obviously, it was empty, not been what they might have been. It's such a shame. They'll say Catalan Dragons aren't attractive enough. That's nonsense. They should be everyone's second team.
Yeah, you're right. And I also say that what we discussed earlier in regards to, we've got to make it the event, not just the grand final. It's the event.
I wonder what they're going to do, Stevo, if in a few years' time, both Toulouse, if they get there, and Catalan are at Old Trafford, because it could happen. It could easily happen. What's going to happen then?
They'll play it in Paris, Eddie.
You think?
Of course. Listen, we've just had a grand final in Australia that's been played 2 Sydney teams, right? And they have to play it up in Queensland. Look, you've got to develop certain schedules. If this happens, if this happens. But we've got to make the grand final the event, similar to what they did years and years ago at Wembley.
Yeah.
Everybody was excited. I am going to London to watch the Challenge Cup.
Yeah, now you want them to say, well, let's go to Old Trafford, the Theatre of Dreams, and watch the grand final. I mean, that is the ultimate. And we made it. It was a full house. 6 years ago, we had a full house.
Yeah.
We can get back to that. It'll take a lot of hard work by the clubs, by the Super League, by the Rugby Football League, by everybody, the broadcasters. I honestly believe we can get back to that, but it will take some time.
Well, here's one idea that I've always thought should have been brought in years and years ago, is the fact that if you are wanting to support your own club, you'll pay for it and it costs you X. Well, why don't you add Y to the tickets for the grand final? You get at a reduced rate if you are a season ticket holder. In other words, give them a little bit of an incentive. I know they do this, that, and the other, but get people that go to watch their own team know in the back of their minds they can get a real bonus and get tickets for the grand final. It's like what you said earlier, Eddie. It should have been sold out somewhere in March or April.
Yeah, months ago. It should. Well, look, we're talking about a Toulouse Catalan grand final. Featherstone, they will have something to say about that. They've got this £1 million match to play on Sunday. It'll be a hell of a battle, Steve. Toulouse, 52 points per game on average this year. Featherstone, gritty, determined team. They'll fancy their chances. They're needled already. They've not been allowed to play in Toulouse this year. They'll see this as the opportunity to put the record straight and put these French upstarts right in their place, won't they?
Oh, of course they will. I mean, I was watching the game and there was a couple of banners in the stands. We know you hate us, but we're coming to Super League. And look, I don't mind that sort of situation. It's just that it infuriates me. You'll probably get 10,000 at each individual game, but it's very rare. And that's, one of the scenarios that the Rugby Football League and Super League have to address.
Well, isn't it the responsibility of the Super League clubs themselves, Steve-O? Okay, if two French sides are in 2022, surely the Super League clubs have got to start trying and properly to sell out the ground to their home support week in, week out. Have a little bit of pride in your own town, pride in your own club. Get along to the ground. Sell it out. Sell out to your home support, and then you don't have to rely on away support.
Well, the trouble is, though, Eddie, I don't know how many thousand live in Featherstone, but perhaps they can't get to a sort of situation where they sell out. Look, we know it's difficult, but for all the years and years and years, self-interest, we just want to look after our club. Do we want to spread it? No. I mean, it was the same down in Australia when people said, what, they're bringing in a team from Queensland into the Rugby Football League in Australia. And there were complaints about that, about Brisbane. There was even complaints about Newcastle coming into, and Newcastle's only 80 kilometres away from central Sydney. But you've got to admire what the Australians have done.
Oh, my word. I mean, we're talking about sellouts. And in Queensland, as you say, at the weekend, the grand final was a sellout. Two sides from the other side of the border in New South Wales. Here's a lesson. There's a lesson there. What a match. What an occasion. And hey, the Panthers, your Penrith Panthers, they did it for you, didn't they?
They certainly did. But I have to give great credit to South Sydney. As I mentioned before, they had very little position where they could launch their great players. They hardly got anywhere near. As I said, it was maybe 8 or 10 times that they were in a dangerous situation where Penrith looked as though they could concede. I mean, to get back into that game, they probably only had about 5 or 6 clean breaks. That's how strong the Penrith defence was. And I'm pleased for them. To come back and lose against Melbourne last year. And they said that, well, they quaked in their boots. It was overwhelming. They couldn't handle it. Boy, they've handled it this year, even despite some of their major players being injured. But what about Cleary? What a game. I don't know how many kicks he put up in the air, but it must be well over 25.
Well, they have been the stars of the show all year. They've struggled to get to the grand final. Cleary's been an absolute part of it. He's been the hub of everything they do. And you're right, they've come back after a grand final defeat last year and they've won the big one this year. Do you think we'll see? I mean, here we go. Now then, this is the big question. Will we see a World Club Championship in 2022 between either Catalan and Saints and the Panthers? What do you think? Do you think that's a possibility?
No, mainly due to the fact that we have to ensure that the World Cup is played next year. That is that's the major objective.
Absolutely, but they're opening the borders up, Steve-O. They're starting to fly again, aren't they, early in the new year, letting people out and in Australia.
I understand that,
Just maybe.
Well, maybe. Obviously, whoever wins on the weekend, they'll be looking for a trip down to Australia or even an Australian side to come over here. But it does create a lot of problems. Remember, the Australians, New South Wales Rugby League, they said, no, we're not going there because it's too dangerous.
Yeah, they wouldn't come for the World Cup.
They wouldn't risk it. Look, the pandemic's thrown everything up in the air, hasn't it? It's just that sort of situation. It was a sad end in many ways, for Bennett, wasn't it? The coach at South Sydney. I mean, what a great coach he has been. And according to all the reports down under, he will take charge of the new Queensland side outside the area of Brisbane. Not far, just 20 or 30 miles. There are 4 clubs wanting to join in. And Bennett has kept it very close to his chest which particular club he will coach next year.
But he'll be still involved, which is fantastic. And he's an expansionist. He's an internationalist. And okay, it was a bit of a pipe dream from me to say that, we might have a World Club Championship. I don't suppose for 1 minute we will, but, I can dream, can't I? I can dream.
Well, of course you can, but I think once we realise and get control over the pandemic, Eddie, we can then start spreading our wings. We can then start talking about doing that and get the television coverage or whatever. And there's one of the clubs up in Brisbane, just outside of Brisbane. They've had a huge boost because Murdoch's company, who owns the television and newspapers down in Australia, has said they'll pump in 20 to 30 million into a certain club if they join as the second Brisbane outfit.
Wow.
And they're coming in 22 or at least 23 at the latest.
Expansion in Australia. And just before we go, Stevo, let's back to our grand final on Saturday. Let's say good luck to everybody involved in the project Rowing for Rob this week. It's apparently an expedition to deliver the match ball to Old Trafford, paddling on the canal network, 100 miles, with many rugby league legends taking part. It's all for Rob Burrow and the Motor Neurone Disease Association. People can get involved by the Just Giving website. And of course, Rob presenting the Harry Sunderland Award to the man of the match on Saturday. It'll be a special moment on a very, very special day. In fact, two special moments when that ball comes in.
Yeah, and I'd like to congratulate every person involved in rugby league. Thank you very much for what you've done in regards to looking after Rob Burrow. We are fighting against this disease, and anybody who's put in even $1, thank you very much indeed. We know that a lot of people have put in far more than that, but it just shows that deep down, rugby league fans are the best in the world.
Absolutely. And people who've played in the past are brilliant guys, and they will do everything that they possibly can to help out. It will be a very special moment, two special moments, and it'll be a special day because we're going to be there, you and me, sat next to each other at the grand final once again. I don't want a commentary from you, though, okay? I don't want you chattering on all the way through it. All right.
Well, it'd be difficult for me to keep my mouth shut for such a long time, Eddie, as you well know. But all I can also say is that thank you, Betfred, for inviting both of us
Indeed.
to watch the game in wonderful comfort. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an absolute belter of a final. I really do. And I think that St. Helens will have to be at their best because the courage and the determination that we'll see from the French outfit will be something to watch. It'll be outstanding, I'm sure.
You bring a couple of bring a bit of plastic with you and get to the bar at Old Trafford because, Man United need the money. Fair play. They spent a lot on Ronaldo and they spent a lot on these players coming in this year. They'll be looking to take a couple of bob off you on Saturday night.
What position is Ronaldo playing on the weekend?
Scrum half.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I think any grand final, the Wembley final at all, it's, as I say, it's an event.
We will be there. And don't forget, this has been the 40th edition. The 40th edition of Eddie and Steve on the podcast. And what do they say? Life begins at 40. Off we go, Steve-O. We're at Old Trafford. We're Old Trafford bound.
Yes. And thank you once again, Betfred.